All right, well, we have a full quorum here, so why don't we just slowly dive into this? So, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back. Today is January 11th, 2024. I would like to call to order the Town of Cohasset Sidewalk and Connectivity meeting. The attendees this afternoon are Chair Jay Pimpari. After I call your name, just please say present. Vice Chair Julie Rollins,
Present.
Frank Cicchetti,
Present.
and Bob Mulhall.
Present.
So hopefully we do have a quorum of four, and Carol Rowe is also here. I will kind of watch the participants list. Brian is a key component to all of this, so hoping he can join in as well. Today, hopefully, we're going to talk mainly about the King Street, Pond Street area. Julie, not just quite yet, but are you ready to go with that today?
I am.
All right, awesome. That's just made my day. So, looking at the agenda, topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours. Frank, I know you brought a couple of issues to my attention. So while they're not specifically on the agenda, they were within the 48-hour window of unfortunately not being able to be placed on the agenda. So therefore, we have this placeholder. So let's circle back at the end and carve out some time to talk about that.
Sure.
Next item of business is the approval of minutes for December 7th. I might have had a quick comment on those, sent them over, and they look good to me. So I will make a motion to approve the minutes of December 7th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next, flying through here, next item of business is the update from the DPW. I don't see Brian on at the moment, so we will have to circle back to that. I did see through some social media posts the flooding down by the harbor and all the comments that go along with social media posts about the condos and the waterways and all that fun stuff. So as we start to think about safety measures in another month or two here, remember the flooding and what that does to the area and how we can create some safety measures and not have cars basically sitting on the side of the roadway there for days on end. All right, since we don't have Brian on, well, let's jump right into it. So as we have discussed here for the next couple of meetings.
Excuse me, Jay.
Yeah.
Brian was here. He was in a meeting. He said to let you know that they're still waiting on the quotes. So he really doesn't have anything else to add. He said if he can, looks like he's coming on now.
All right. Great.
Okay.
Perfect. You could just promote him up. That would be great.
Yep, I just did.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. Perfect timing. We were just going through the agenda and came up to the update from the DPW, and Carol said she just quickly talked to you about you mentioned you might have some quotes.
We're still the update is no update. We are still waiting on quotes from TL Edwards for next year's paving season. So he's got to get out and measure South Main Street, Beechwood, including the sidewalk, Pond, including the sidewalk, Mill Lane, and there's been an addition where the schools want to do their parking lot, so he's going to come out and do those. That funding discussion for that is going to be a separate discussion, but and I told him that we've already spent kind of the money that we've appropriated at town meeting, so we don't have much money to do any kind of schoolwork. But anyway, it's going to be in the mix. When you hear it either at the select board meeting or the school meeting, it'll be part of the paving season as far as they're concerned.
Yeah. What schools were they talking about paving?
We're getting quotes for all of them.
So Osgood, Deer Hill, middle and high school?
Yeah. So they
to pave the entire parking lot coming in from Sawyer and from Pond Street?
Yeah, so the business manager there was kind of piecemealing it, saying, "Can we do this little section, that little section?" But in reality, all those parking lots are in terrible condition. If and doing it piecemeal over the next 10 years, it's just going to make everything, it'll be disruptive. And so I suggested just getting a quote for each campus, the whole campus, and then go from there.
And then bringing that to the select board and see if they can scrounge up some pennies for that.
The capital budget committee first, and then ultimately.
Okay. I will. I'll reach out to the select board chair on a separately and keep that on both our radar screens. Thanks for the heads up and kind of see where that goes.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, so our funding, which was the 800, I mean, that's pretty much spent with the streets I just mentioned for next year. But so we don't really have anything to contribute to the schools, but the schools also have their new fund, and it's really their discretion and decision if they want to use some of that to do paving and around the schools.
All right. Well, Beechwood is that's so we talk about the Beechwood. That's already that's not funded by the town, correct?
So we have gas money for Beechwood and Pond, but we've been talking about doing sidewalks along with each street. So we need to update those quotes to include the sidewalks.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see where those quotes come in. And so, when do you think you'll have those quotes?
Probably 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
I told them we want to line up for paving season.
Yeah. All right.
Do I understand correctly that the paving of the parking lots and the fixing of the sidewalks on the two campuses has not been decided yet in terms of when they're beginning that and which ones they'll do?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's all going to start with the quotes. So we're getting estimates from our paving contractor, and the schools can take those and decide.
Very good. That makes a lot of sense. So last night I was on the Recreation Commission meeting, and what I was told at that meeting is that July 1st, we should be planning on July 1st, the Osgood and the Deer Hill will be having everything paved and sidewalks redone on July 1st. And that is obviously significantly impact rec camp.
Yeah, no. So I'm glad you brought that up. So it is, the suggestion is we get the quotes. If they're going to go with it, go to town meeting for the appropriation, and then it starts July 1st, or it starts in the summertime when school lets out. So yes, it is good to plan for recreation options. Is it the high school, or if we're doing all the campuses, maybe stagger it where you do Osgood, Deer Hill one season, and all of the recreational activities move to the high school, or vice versa.
Yes.
It should be planned for, and it should be discussed on, options for rec camp.
Okay, very good. Last night we have a bunch of options. We voted to go with what we call option A, which is to move the high five kids to the library and to have all of the rest of the playground programs run out of the middle and high school. And so that's our plan. But of course, that's contingent on so many other things happening, things getting passed and the funds being available. But we do have a backup plan in place.
Yep. Okay. And then, that is, so then that, in that case, it would be doing Osgood, Deer Hill next year, and then doing the high school the following year.
That's right.
Okay.
I didn't even know that they wanted to do the high school and the middle school. That didn't even come up last night. So I guess I can't speak to that. Maybe they were planning on doing it all at once and we just didn't know, but we'd have to cancel all of the recreation programs for the summer, obviously, if they did it all at once.
All right. Well, that's all good to know. I guess all good news as long as the funding comes through. You're on mute, Brian. Brian, you're still on mute if you're trying to talk to us. Brian, maybe he's not Maybe he's not talking. Are you trying to talk to us? You're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry about that. No, I got a call.
Oh, okay.
Still
Yeah, no
flooding.
problem.
Still
Didn't know if
flooding
you were
around
trying.
town. Hope all you are dry.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's great. And again, the next couple meetings I just like to spend on trying to go through the quadrants today, or the geographical areas. Today is the King Street, Pond Street area, and that was Julie and Tori's tasks. We'll try and cover as much of that as we can. And then I wasn't ready to do Jerusalem Road today, but I'm happy to do that at the next meeting, and hopefully we can get one, if not two people, to be ready to go on the next meeting, which we'll talk about tentatively for February 8th. We'll discuss that at the end. And then hopefully by the end of February, we'll have done the 5. So if we can get one done today, 2 on the 8th, and 2 on another meeting after that, that'd be great. We'll kind of have our priority list for the next couple of years. So what I had intended here, and I'm going to turn it over to Julie in a minute, but let me just kind of share my screen first here. And let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So I've slowly been working on this draft plan, or this is, as Brian has pointed out, the DPW plan. As we start to look at roadways, the green roadways here are the roadways that have already been completed. So green is done. The what do I have to go back here? The yellow roadways are roadways that appear to be going to be done in the springtime, and that's Beechwood and Mill Lane. And as you can see, we've kind of checked off Doane Street, and maybe I didn't quite get it all correct, but Doane and Church Street in the green, so those have been checked off. And then we have these kind of purple ones here, which is South Main Street, which seems to be a heavy hitter and seems to be something that a lot of people want to have. And then I forget why I had the red. I think that was diagnosed as an urgent need to be done from 2024. And then I realized that we still had this 2022 roadway here that, for whatever reason, I guess has not been paved yet. So the goal here is to look at the Excel spreadsheet that was sent around. It's a shared spreadsheet. Look at that, and then kind of look at the needs that have been addressed by the DPW and cross-reference that to see if you have a road that is in dire need of being paved, a public roadway, not a private roadway, that is in dire need. Let's discuss how we can move that up. And if you see some roadways on here that maybe, and this is just purely an example, Short Street, that is on a list for a potential 2024, and it's all due to funding here. If you realize that there's nothing wrong with that roadway, and that roadway can get pushed off to 2027 or 2028, then let's make the recommendation to push that off. So I know that we don't have an endless supply of money here. We all have to be pretty realistic, but I think the only way to do this is, again, to go back through and just really have each person go through their area and see how things play out. So Julie drew the short stick here on going up first. So, and I do have a hard stop at 1 o'clock. I do want to leave 5 or 10 minutes for Frank here, but Julie, you've got plenty of time in between now and then. If you want to do some screen sharing and kind of talk about your area of town, what you saw, what the urgent dire needs are, et cetera, et cetera. There's no format or template here on how about going to do this. And I see we have a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm glad that I'm not next up today, because I didn't put a PowerPoint presentation together. So kudos to you off the bat. I was going to do pictures to lay this thing out. So I think this already looks fantastic. Without any further ado, Julie, let me just turn it over to you, and any committee members, feel free to jump in here if you have any questions, etc., as we go along.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jay. So I don't know if you can see my slide. Is it big enough? Is that slide big enough? I'm not sure how to make it any bigger.
We can see it.
You can
Yeah,
see it?
we're not seeing the presentation view. It's like your view, but it's fine.
Yeah, go over
Yeah,
to slideshow.
Where's
Oh,
presentation
Right.
view?
Oh, just go over to slideshow, up to the right, next to animate, to the right, right. Boom. Oh, too far. Boom. Slideshow,
Yeah,
and then go to from the beginning.
awesome. Can you see that better?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Okay, let me see. Let me move this over here.
We're gonna pave the reservoir.
Maybe. Sky's the limit, you guys. Sky's the limit. Okay, so this might be a bit small. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so here are the recommendations. I don't think any of this is a surprise. I think we've talked about most of these in previous meetings. So I cross-referenced the roads that are in our quadrant with the current paving plan, and also whether or not they are public versus private roads, the functional class, and the current roadway condition. So starting with Pond Street, it's already on our list. We talked about it earlier. The roadway condition is poor and does require paving. We are strongly recommending a sidewalk or doesn't have to be one with a curb, but some sort of a walking area on one side of the road between King Street and 3A. And this in order to connect the schools and town. This is on the town paving plan for 2022, but it does not include the construction of a Cape Cod berm or any kind of walking space on the side of the road.
So Julie, the Pond Street itself is on the paving plan, and I forget that's either a gas or a water company funded. So that seems like that's going to happen. You were
Yes,
talking about the
except that's from from the school to 3A. And what this is for is King Street to 3A. So this is the other side of Pond Street, and Brian can correct me, but I do not believe it's part of the plan with the outside money to get paved. This is the other side of Pond. Does that make sense, Brian? So the one I have listed here is from
3A to King Street, yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that should be on the list to get paved.
Yeah.
I also just noticed Wheelwright is private. You have it listed as public.
Oh,
I'm checking Hillside right now.
All right, so let's go down these one by one, but thank you for pointing that out. So as I go back to my paving plan, right? So the Pond Street's a leftover from 2022. So the Pond Street and Pond Street extension. So the recommendation that's currently not here, Julie, that we need to raise the issue is some form of a sidewalk.
that's
from
right.
King Street to 3A.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, and then Pond Street Extension, I have to apologize. I've misspoken in previous meetings. I had said, oh, this is just a driveway between King and the water treatment plant, and it's in perfect condition. That part is true. I didn't realize that it also includes a section that runs through the woods on King Street. Runs parallel to King Street. So I'll show you pictures of that in a second. So I added it back on here because while the area in front of the water treatment plant is fine, the area that runs along King Street, that's part of the extension, that does need major rehab. And we do not recommend a sidewalk there because that's essentially what it is. And I do believe it's on the paving plan for 2024 when you showed it earlier.
Yep, it is.
Okay. Now in terms of the length of it, depending on what was measured for the extension, it may be a lot shorter based on the section that we're talking about, which I'll show in a couple minutes.
The length was 420 feet on the plan.
Yeah, that seems kind of long for the section that needs rehab,
Okay.
but Brian knows better than I do. Okay. So I'll show a picture of that in a little bit. King Street, this is in good didn't know the functional class, but this seems to be in good condition. No recommendation. Yes, we definitely want a sidewalk, but that's not something that I think is on the table right now. Beechwood Street, that's on our list that we talked about earlier. So the ones that I've highlighted in yellow here are the ones that are in poor condition and that we are recommending get paved. So it's a matter of whether or not they're on our paving plan. And as you can see in the last column under comments, a few of them are not yet on the paving plan. And our recommendation would be that they be added to the paving plan and maybe sort of go in front of other roads that may not need to be paved as quickly.
All right, so Wheelwright is a private road, I heard.
Yes, that
Okay.
is a typo. I'm sorry, and I'm not sure why I have
No
public
problem.
there. So that, since it's private, it's not on the paving plan anyway, it's in good condition, so there's no issue there anyway.
Okay.
Riverview Drive, public, poor condition, not on the paving plan. Church Street, I don't know if all of Church Street was paved, just a portion of it, I believe. Not sure, so I'm not sure if we call it complete, but either way, it's on the current town plan for 2025, so we would scratch it if it is complete.
Okay.
Brian, were there plans to pave more of Church Street?
Yeah, so we only paved the portion that is got the majority of the traffic from Doan Street up to the town line, and that was with the winter recovery money. So we didn't have enough to go all the way down Church Street, but that section on the other side of that triangular common does need to be done.
Yeah.
Probably coinciding with, when we do that Beechwood Street intersection down to the dam and the other end of Doan Street.
Yes, okay. So it's on the current town plan for 2025, I noticed, so maybe it's moved earlier to 2024 with the Beechwood section. So that may be an edit, maybe. Doan Street, I do recommend that gets paved. It's not on the town paving plan currently.
Is that on the other side of, so the town line down to Beechwood was done, correct? Or am I off?
Yeah, no. So the piece from Beechwood down to Wampatuck State Park is really the longer section of Doan Street. That I think that's what Julie's saying.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
That's right. From Beechwood to the park. That's the section I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay, and then Ox Pasture, Lily Pond Lane, and Schofield Drive, all of them are in really poor condition, but they're all private roads. So I highlighted them because we had talked about just, if the select board does make changes, and at some point we will be using town money to be repaving these roads, and my recommendation would be that they get put on the list.
Okay. I think what would be also good in something, and this is fantastic, by the way, is to also look to see maybe a separate column or a follow-up to see like how many, what would the recommendation would be, like how many years off would it be, like as an example, like Lily Pond. And I know it may be, is it in, someone says it's in poor condition, but is that like a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year type of a thing? I think the committee should start to look at maybe like a 3 year plan here.
Yeah, that's a
If
good
you
idea.
go more than 3 years, it's like every road in this town could be paved probably 5 years from now. So like immediate needs, and I say immediate within like 1 to 3 years. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely add a column like that. And I didn't include all of the columns that we have on the spreadsheet just in order to fit it in, fit it on the slide.
Yeah.
But we should definitely add that column.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. I can move on now. I think so. This is the Mass GIS lot line view of the section of Pond Street that we are focused on getting repaved and the addition of a sidewalk. I'm not sure if you can see it all that clearly here.
Yeah, I can see. Let me just stop you there, and then oh yeah, and to go back to Brian. So this is a great picture, and it's certainly with the Pond Street extension. The Pond Street
Yeah.
from 3A to King Street. That was on the 2022 list, so it's obviously a year and a half overdue. Are we getting quotes for that as well, Brian?
I'm sorry, which section are you talking about?
So we're just talking about Pond Street from 3A down to King Street, like right in the middle of there.
So no, that's not part of what we've requested in the past couple of weeks, but we can, in its current condition, if we're not doing sidewalks. If we're doing sidewalks, we need an engineered plan, surveyed, engineered plan on constructing a new sidewalk.
And
So
Brian,
we
is
would-
that need, oh, sorry, if we're doing a Cape Cod berm or some kind of walking path on the side of the road, is that needed for that as well?
Yeah, so we can't just, I guess, arbitrarily kind of do a sidewalk without engineering it and getting kind of the drainage layout and making sure it's in the right of way. Because we'll be doing, I imagine it would probably be on the north side of Pond Street, and it would take out a lot of private landscaping that was installed in the public way. And it's not unusual that people, about 6 feet of their lawn is within the public way, but we'd need to have a surveyed, engineered plan that's staked out with grades and stuff like that.
Okay.
All right. Well, I would like to get a proposal. I would like to get it on the list for a proposal or a quote just to have the road paved, and then also keep it on the radar. I think that this area certainly is definitely beneficial to having a sidewalk in there, some form of a sidewalk. It's been a while since I've been out there, but I strongly support a sidewalk in that area over there. And if it doesn't happen, this spring or this summer, then I would vote to try and have that done. It sounds like an engineering plan and whatnot's going to hold things up. So if that's the case, then I would strongly recommend making this a high priority for 2025 if it can't be done in 2024.
Brian, is there anything stopping us from moving forward with an engineering plan now?
It's all just money. So if you would think of like engineering is generally 8 to 10% of construction costs, and I forget what's the linear footage of this? Like 2,000 feet, maybe.
Oh, I think I might have taken it off the
It's
spreadsheet.
1164.
1164.
So the estimated cost is $144,000.
Yeah, so if you say like 25% of a million, so say it's like 250,000, $300,000 worth of sidewalk, the engineering of that would be like $30,000. So we need like 30 grand to do an engineering assessment of that, roughly.
And who does the engineering assessment?
We'd hire a survey company. We don't have the ability to do in-house survey, so they have to come out, survey, stake, and then do an engineered plan based on our input. Put it on the north side and that kind of stuff. They'd have to flag the wetlands, do an RDA. Well, the Concom.
Yep.
What they would need to do. That's all within the buffer zone out there on the 3A side.
Yeah, I think it'd be okay if you did it on the residential side, keeping it away from the meadow. I think you'd be fine. I know you have to go through the Conservation Commission, but I think you'd be fine putting it over opposite the meadow. But so, if the sidewalk were 1,100 feet long, what would you estimate the
I was just
Sidewalk.
ballparking. So I was ballparking $1 million a mile for sidewalk, and then again, we're just high level estimating, right? $1 million, and that's 1,100. So it's roughly a fifth of a mile, roughly. So 25% of $1 million is like 250, 300,000. That's the construction cost roughly, and then take 10% of that. That's 30 grand.
So
Alright.
that would be for like a sidewalk with curbs, or 250 sounds like so much. What would that cover? Like what kind of a sidewalk would that be?
That would be a sidewalk with a curb, whether it's bituminous or granite. I mean, the biggest thing when you add any kind of sidewalk, it needs to be elevated from the surface. So you're putting some sort of curb in there, and then you need to make sure that drainage goes where it should go. It
Mhm.
needs to pitch to a catch basin, and you may need to add catch basins and pipes to go over to the wetlands. And then Concom might require, some sort of stormwater treatment system. So it's not as easy as just going out and paving a certain area. It's pretty much the drainage and making sure it fits within the layout is the majority of the cost.
I see. So that would be included in the 250.
Yes, and
Yeah.
again, that's top of the head, back of the napkin ballpark figures. But that, to your first question is where would we get the money to do it? You could use road funding to do it, but so we don't have like a set aside engineering fund to do it. It would be probably road money. We could use the appropriation that we have, but again, that would cut into the actual paving that you're going to do this year.
Okay.
Well, let's get at least, I'm supportive of it. I would like to think that even though if it were $1 million a mile, that we're with a lesser, and I say lesser, construction of a curb, not having the granite curbing, et cetera, may hopefully help out with the cost of that. If the roadway alone only is, well, yeah. The roadway alone, the estimated cost is $144,000. I'd hate to think that the curbing, which is only 4 feet wide, is 3 times that.
Right. Yeah.
So I personally think there could be some options to the type of curbing in there, but I fully understand the regulatory side of the house that also needs to happen.
Yeah, if you look at, so you said, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but that paving cost you said was 144. Is that on some estimate somewhere?
Yeah.
So
It's
double
on
it for
your
the sidewalks.
But,
Sidewalk, even though it's smaller in area, it's roughly double the cost because it's small, it's handwork, and but that, and then the sidewalk that we did up on Sawyer Street, that one was about equivalent length, and that costs almost $300,000. So if you have requirements like that on sections of this for from the Concom or whatever, or we need to add drainage, I think 300 is definitely within the realm of kind of plus or minus where we're going to be.
I'll make a phone call to Concom.
Yeah, do you know anybody?
I know a couple of people over there.
Okay. So, and that quote, the 144, I think you said that for sure is for this particular stretch of pond and not for the one up further.
Yeah, I don't know where that figure. Someone had just mentioned it. I don't know where that.
Yeah, I
figure.
think Jay got it from the paving plan, but
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the paving plan. I could pull it up,
Yeah.
but if need be here.
I was just wondering if just wanted to confirm that it's this part of pond and not the other part of pond that they are planning to pave right
Yeah,
away.
it's the Pond Street. It's from 3A to King Street, 1,164 feet.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's this section.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay.
Yeah, that was left. That was on the 2022 plan.
Okay.
So, all right.
I really don't feel as though we need a sidewalk like Sawyer Street in this section. I feel like we need exactly what's on the other side of the road, Kings of 3A, which is a small little paved section of grass essentially that all the kids can use to walk to school.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you
Unfortunately, I
can call
agree
it a
with you.
sidewalk. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know, what is that called? Is it
I
like
know
a
what you're
multi-
saying, but
like-
unfortunately, like that section was done a long time ago. And if we create any sort of walking path that needs to be ADA compliant, which is, you're talking a 6 foot layout, curbing, make sure you have your tread mats and the crosswalk. So we're required by, ADA to be compliant. We can't create what's on the opposite side on Pond
Oh.
Street because
Oh,
it's too
oh,
narrow and it doesn't meet the current code requirements.
oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Mm.
So, as we think about this and start to go through it, and I know, again, we unfortunately the town only has so much money to divvy up to go around, and it already sounds like there are some heavy hitter projects that are already on the slate for 2024, regardless of what plans people look at. But some of these projects might be good for like grant opportunities. And the grant that we put together last year, which I thought was kind of a slam dunk, at least with the ADA component sidewalks, and I actually thought Elm Street was going to go forward, didn't. So, these might be these connectivity to the school and residential neighborhoods, which is one of our top priorities. And I in
There's
my
our
view,
reason.
would bode very well to having a sidewalk like that. So, while there may or may not be money in the town of Cohasset in the immediate future for any one of these projects, it shouldn't stop us from exploring other grant opportunities in order to get these projects funded. So I'll just throw that out there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So here's some content. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but these are the reasons why we think a sidewalk of some type on Pond Street is really important, and to do as much as we can now, or take all the steps we can now to make this a reality. I don't want to be daunted by surveys and plans and money. I really just want to try to get it done and think about opportunities instead of boundaries. I do love the idea of applying for a grant. But I also think this is a very smart use of road funds because of the reasons that we're presenting here.
I do as well. I think that in my view that I would support raising this to the highest level on our priority list. And let's kind of see what the financial impacts look like. Let's see, by in another 2 or if not 3, 4 weeks here, we will have gone through all of our geographical areas and kind of reevaluate in a few meetings on where we really want to push a particular issue, regardless of whether or not there's money there. Let's push the issue.
Agreed.
Okay.
Makes sense. This is another diagram just showing the section of sidewalk that we're looking to do across the street from 3A. And then I just wanted to touch briefly on the Pond Street extension because I misspoke in earlier meetings. So this is this is part of the Pond Street extension right here. You can see from the picture on the right, it is completely deteriorated.
Do cars even go? I've never been down there.
No,
Cars-
not for cars. It's for foot traffic. It's for people to walk safely on the side of King Street, but it's on such a small section. But this is part of the Pond Street extension, and we do support repaving this.
Okay.
Whereas the section in front of the town, the water sewer treatment plant, that section to King is in perfect condition. It's this portion that needs to be repaved, and I'm not sure of the length.
Yeah, if you could double check the link, Julie, because it actually is on, and I can share my screen if you need
Yeah,
to.
I can stop. Yep, let me stop sharing.
So let me just share here, share away. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes.
I have it in red here, so I believe it's that area. It's the King Street to the dead end. Now, whether or not that's properly identified, I don't know, but it is identified as being 420 feet. Whether or not that's the 420 feet going from point A to point B or B to C, I don't know. That might be something you would want to further look at.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you happen to know, Brian, if that 420? I'm not great at guessing length. My guess is that this is just the park, the road leading
Right.
into the.
So you think of 420 feet is 1.5 football fields.
Yeah, if you pace it out, each pace is probably a yard, so 3 feet ish, and just to get an estimate. Oh, there's also a measuring tool in the Mass GIS system.
Oh,
That
yes.
not super scientific, but it can at least give you a ballpark to see if it is probably the right stretch or not.
Yeah, great idea. We could easily do that.
Okay, so while I'm on this, again, looks like most of the stuff on 2023 has been identified, and the yellow will be identified or paid for by the gas company. And we're kind of picking away at 2024 here. South Main Street, it'll be interesting to see where those quotes come back. Right now, just using these estimated costs, we're at 1.585. Now, going back to the estimated cost that came in for 2023, when the true quote came in, it was about half of that. So but I don't know, this plan was obviously put together a couple of years ago. Let's kind of look at where we are after going through these geographical areas, and everyone speaks up, and maybe some of these on 2024 aren't on the hit list, and maybe, I don't know. I guess you just have to let it play out a little bit. Anything else, Julie? That was great.
That was it. That's it. I've taken up way too much time.
No,
Julie,
it's totally fine.
Julie, could you
So-
send me that PowerPoint presentation?
I sure can.
Thank you.
And I'll fix the typo that Brian pointed out. Wheelwright being public or private, the opposite of whatever I had.
Yeah, and again, we're for the time being, let's just focus on all the public roads. I know there's some discussion about private roads. I don't know if that's ever going to come to fruition on getting town funding. That's beyond our pay grade here. So let's just focus on the public roadways in the meantime. But certainly, because that's the only roadways that are being funded. But certainly, keeping that in mind for the future and keeping it on our radar.
Great. With that in mind, I'll take the highlighting off of the private roads.
Okay. And it might be good, Julie, since we've gone through this, to maybe just like a smaller subset, maybe like high priority roadways, a very small subset of that list that we can all throw around at the end, and it might be good for all of us after we go through and say this road is a major high priority that each one of us have identified, so that in a month from now, when we're all complete, we can go back and say, if some pot of money does fall out of the sky, or we do have leftover money, say these are the roadways that we would like to have done for 2024 or 2025, etc.
Yeah, sounds good. I can designate that on the Google spreadsheet.
All right. So I thought I was maybe going to be ready to do Jerusalem Road area. I am not, but I'm happy to do that on the next meeting. I know I want to circle back. I have a hard stop in 13 minutes, but Frank, you had brought up a couple of issues. I want to circle back to the 48-hour issue. Do you want to just bring, I think you had two issues. You want to bring them up and just throw them out there? And again, if you want to talk a little, we can carve out a little bit more time. We can certainly talk about them at the next meeting a little bit more in detail. But if you want to talk quickly about those topics, feel free to now.
For sure. Yeah, great. I think one of the topics is going to take more time, and that's just low cost safety measures that we can try to employ, like traffic calming measures and things like that, that wouldn't eat up much of the budget, the limited budget that we have, but could have a big impact. I'm thinking like plastic bollards and lines and signage and stuff like that. I think that's a bigger conversation, or maybe we can work it into the sectors when people talk about them, because it's definitely specific to each area of town or
Okay.
instance. But something that should be quick is I think it might be a good idea to try to put together some kind of survey of school students, the kids in town, to see how they get to school, whether a sidewalk would change how they get to school, just to gauge where, because I know there's a lot of kids that take the bus, a lot of kids that walk and bike and this and that. And I think it'd be good to get a sense of where they are and how they're getting to school and how we can try to improve that. Because to Julie's point, that those people that live at that part of King Street and on Pond are so close to the schools, but there really is no safe way to get there. I'm sure the data would support it. It'd be a great example of saying, look, all these people live right here and want to walk to school, but they can't. So that makes it a really good use of the funding. And we might find there's other pockets of town that we think need a sidewalk, but nobody there is going, everyone sends their kids to private school, or they're going to drive anyway. So we don't need to spend funding on sidewalks for that part of town. I think because our number one focus is going to be getting kids to school safely, it would be good to know where they are and how they get to school.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was looking through my computer here. I have a breakdown. I have to find it. I think it was a year or two ago, which shouldn't change much, of how many kids get on and off the bus at each one of the bus stops in town. And I think that goes a long way. And to show you within each one of the bus routes, how many kids actually, again, get on and off the bus. It'd be hard to break it down, I guess, but we could do some form of study of how many kids bike to school or walk to, versus, I guess, if somebody wanted to sit outside the Osgood to Deer Hill, and then the middle school, high school, probably not as much, and see how many cars pull up in for pickup. By process of elimination, how many kids get picked up? You just sit there and count the cars and count the kids that get in the cars. Yeah, that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, I was thinking something as simple too as just a QR code and a Survey Monkey or something like that, and put them at the schools, or put them on the Facebook page and see if people respond to that, and just to get a sense, because the school bus data is definitely good, but I think out where you are, probably if there was a sidewalk to school, they're probably not going to walk 2 miles or whatever it is to. Yeah. Anyway. Right. But it's definitely all good data. I think it'd be nice to crunch it quickly and see what we have. But I think. I just wonder where there are people who want to walk to school or close proximity to school that can't, or bike safely because there aren't existing sidewalks. Maybe there are opportunities that we're not seeing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about all that further. I agree. Okay. I want to keep moving this all along. I think we had agreed that our next meeting would be on the 2 weeks from today, which is the 25th? Does this Thursday time slot work for people at noontime again? If we go noon to 1 on the 25th?
It is good for me.
Okay.
Me too.
And then while we have it here, how does 2 weeks after that, February 8th, look again, 12 to 1 o'clock?
Also good for me.
Me too.
All right. So let's just let's carve out the next 2 meetings if we can. I'll send a follow-up email to everybody. Well, our next meeting will, as we had planned, January 25th at noon. And then the next meeting will be February 8th at 12 p.m. I'm hoping that I'm well, I guess I would be if I put myself on. Is Frank or Bob, would either one of you be available to also present? I think we could get 2 of these done in an hour on the 25th on one of your geographical areas to kind of do the same thing that Julie just did.
I might need to sign up for the 8th just to have some time to get back over to my section.
Okay. Yeah, I think I could probably do it. I know I'm traveling for work the 24th, but as long as I'll know a couple days in advance if I am ready to go.
All right. I can put it on the agenda, and if we don't cover it, then we don't cover it. It's not the end of the world. I'll see if Paul is
Few minutes.
also. What's that?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I'll also see if Paul is available as well. It's better to put it on the agenda and not cover it than not have it on the agenda and not being able to cover it.
Mhm.
Okay. And then we'll pencil in Bob for the February 8th. So by February 8th, we should be able to wrap these up, regardless. And then we'll figure out our next meeting after that. Okay.
And Jay, if I'm going to be the last one on the 8th, you can just put me on for the 25th, and why don't we all? I can shoot for that, and Frank can shoot for it as well, and we'll see what we can cover at that meeting.
Okay. Yeah. All right. No, I appreciate that. Try and keeping these just to an hour. Understanding everybody has a life and work, etc., and hopefully just doing it through the work hour or lunch hour is not too bad on anybody. But we can throw them all on there, and if we get to them, great. And if we don't, we don't. I know offhand, my area is not going to take too long. In fairly good shape. I think, unfortunately, even if my area were a complete disarray, I'd sit here and hypothetically propose 5 issues. People probably look at me like I have 9 heads because we just don't have the money to do it. And I think that's really an unfortunate situation that we're really in. With this sidewalk committee here, we're trying to do more with less per se, even though we did get a little bit of money in the stabilization fund. We're still behind the 8 ball. It's still not enough. And there will be people in town who will continue to talk badly about the roadways and other things in town. And there's only so much you can do, and we're experiencing that firsthand, even with the stabilization fund. If you get 1 or 2 big projects, or one project that could just eat up the whole thing, like Elm Street ate up the whole budget for last year, for the most part. 80% of the budget. And if South Main Street's done, then there's another 70 to 80% of the budget. So there's only so much we can do, being realistic. But I think we also have to, I don't see Brian's on anymore, but I was going to mention this to Brian, is to also, hold firm as a sidewalk committee here, while and make recommendations for sidewalks and or roadways that really need to be done. I know the DPW plan was put out there in June of 2022. That is a year and a half plus old now. And there are many different factors that have come into play in the past year and a half. And while it's a nice mechanism to have layout of the next 3, 4, 5 years, that's the reason why the sidewalk committee was put in place, is to prioritize that. And if we see roadways that are not being addressed, to prioritize them and send those recommendations over to the select board and let the select board handle it. All right. Anything else that we didn't cover? The only thing left on the agenda is next steps and adjourn. I will put together an agenda, Carol. I'll do that, early next week, or I guess, is Monday a holiday for everybody?
Yes.
It is, yeah.
Okay. All right. So happy, nice long weekend. And mark the calendar for January 25th and February 8th. We will circle back, and Bob and Frank, if you're ready on the 25th, great. If you're not, we'll push it to the 8th, and I'll make a note here for myself to be ready. And
Sounds
I'll
great.
give you back 3 minutes of your day. So motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Hi.
All right. And thank you very much, Julie, for kicking us off. That was great.
My pleasure.